Hello and welcome, my fellow science enthusiasts and curious minds. Before we embark on our journey through the captivating world of ancient extinct animals, I wanted to take a moment to greet you warmly and thank you for joining me this evening. Whether you're winding down after a long day, seeking a bit of relaxation, or simply looking to expand your knowledge while drifting off to sleep, I'm delighted to have you here. As we prepare to delve into the fascinating realms of paleontology and the creatures that once roamed our Earth, I'd love to get a sense of where you're tuning in from. If you're feeling inclined, please do leave a comment sharing your corner of the world and what time it is for you right now. It's always a joy to see the diverse global community that comes together over a shared love of learning. If this is your first time joining me, and you find yourself enjoying this style of calm historical storytelling, I warmly invite you to subscribe. There's always room for more inquisitive minds in our little community, and I'd be honoured to have you along for future adventures through the annals of history. Now, let's take a deep breath, get comfortable, and allow ourselves to be transported back in time to a world so different from our own. Picture in your mind's eye a vast untamed landscape where the only sounds are the calls of strange and magnificent creatures, the rustle of ancient foliage and the whisper of primeval winds. It's a place of wonder and mystery, a land before time where the very rules of nature were still being written. In this long-ago era, before the rise of humankind, the Earth was home to an astonishing array of animals, many of which would seem almost alien to us today. From towering dinosaurs that shook the ground with their footsteps to tiny scurrying mammals that would one day inherit the Earth, the diversity of life was truly breathtaking. Yet for all their differences, these creatures shared one thing in common. Their stories, their very existence, have been lost to the ages. Only through the tireless efforts of dedicated scientists, the paleontologists who piece together the puzzles of the past, can we begin to unravel the mysteries of these ancient animals and the worlds they inhabited. Tonight we'll be following in the footsteps of these intrepid researchers, venturing into the field and the laboratory to discover what we really know about the incredible creatures that once called our planet home. Along the way, we'll meet some of the pioneering figures who helped shape our understanding of prehistoric life, and we'll explore the cutting-edge techniques that are allowing us to peer ever deeper into the distant past. So as you settle in and make yourself comfortable, let your imagination wander to a time long before our own, a time when the world was a vastly different place, filled with creatures beyond our wildest dreams. And as we journey together through the aeons, I invite you to embrace the sense of wonder and awe that comes from contemplating the grand tapestry of life on Earth. Our story begins in the early 19th century, in a world where the very notion of extinction was still a controversial idea. At the time, the prevailing belief was that the Earth and all its inhabitants had been created in their present form by a divine hand, and that no species could ever truly disappear from the face of the planet. But all that was about to change, thanks to the efforts of a few unconventional thinkers who dared to challenge the status quo. One such individual was an English doctor by the name of Gideon Mantell, a man whose passion for fossil hunting would lead him to make one of the most groundbreaking discoveries in the history of paleontology. Mantell's story begins in the rolling hills of Sussex, England, where he and his wife, Mary Ann, would often spend their leisure time scouring the countryside for interesting rocks and fossils. It was on one such outing in 1824 that the couple stumbled upon a find that would change the course of their lives, and the very way we understand the history of life on Earth. As they explored a quarry near their home, Mary Ann's keen eye spotted something unusual, a set of large, fossilized teeth, unlike anything they had ever seen before. Intrigued, the Mantells brought the specimens back to Gideon's study, where he could examine them in greater detail. As he turned the teeth over in his hands, Mantell was struck by their size and shape. They were far too large to have belonged to any known living reptile, and their serrated edges seemed to suggest a creature with a powerful bite. The more he studied them, the more convinced he became that these were the remains of an ancient extinct animal, one that had roamed the Earth long before the dawn of humankind. Excited by the potential implications of their discovery, the Mantells began to share their findings with other naturalists and paleontologists of the day. However, they were met with skepticism and even ridicule from many of their colleagues, who found the idea of extinct creatures to be preposterous and even heretical. Undeterred, Mantell pressed on with his research, determined to prove that his hunch was correct. He scoured the quarries and cliffs of southern England for more fossil evidence, and slowly but surely he began to piece together a picture of the creature he believed the teeth belonged to, a massive herbivorous reptile that he named Iguanodon, after the iguana lizard whose teeth bore a passing resemblance to the fossils. As Mantell's work continued, he found himself at the centre of a growing debate about the nature of extinction and the history of life on Earth. His ideas challenged the very foundations of the scientific establishment, and he faced fierce opposition from those who clung to the old ways of thinking. But Mantell was not alone in his pursuit of the truth. Across the English Channel, in the windswept coastal cliffs of Lyme Regis, another fossil hunter was making discoveries that would further shake the foundations of the scientific world. Her name was Mary Anning, and like Mantell, she had a keen eye for spotting the telltale signs of ancient life hidden within the rocks. Born into a poor family, Anning had been collecting and selling fossils since childhood to help make ends meet. But what had begun as a means of survival would soon become her life's passion and her enduring legacy. In the 1820s and 1830s, Anning made a series of remarkable discoveries that would capture the imagination of the scientific community and the public alike. Among her many finds were the first complete skeleton of a plesiosaurus, a long-necked marine reptile that had swum the ancient seas, and the remains of a strange flying creature that would later be recognized as a pterosaur, a winged reptile that had soared through the skies of the prehistoric world. Anning's discoveries, like Mantell's, challenged the prevailing wisdom of the day and helped to establish the reality of extinction as a fact of life on Earth. Her work also highlighted the incredible diversity of prehistoric life, revealing a world populated by creatures that were utterly unlike anything alive today. As word of Anning's and Mantell's finds spread, a new generation of paleontologists began to emerge, eager to uncover the secrets of the ancient past. In the latter half of the 19th century, two of these scientists would come to dominate the field, sparking a heated rivalry that would push the boundaries of paleontological knowledge and capture the public imagination like never before. Their names were Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, and their feud would come to be known as the Bone Wars, a frenzied competition to discover and name as many new dinosaur species as possible. Marsh and Cope were both brilliant scientists, but they were also fierce competitors, driven by a desire for fame and academic glory. They would stop at nothing to outdo each other, even if it meant resorting to underhanded tactics like bribery, sabotage, and outright theft. Their rivalry played out across the American West, a vast and untamed landscape that was just beginning to yield its prehistoric secrets. Marsh and Cope would lead rival expeditions into the Badlands of Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, scouring the rocks for any sign of ancient life. And what they found was truly astonishing. Between them, Marsh and Cope discovered and named more than 130 new species of dinosaur, including some of the most iconic and well-known creatures in the fossil record. There was Triceratops, the great horned herbivore, Stegosaurus, with its distinctive plates and spikes, and of course, Tyrannosaurus rex, the king of the tyrant lizards and one of the most fearsome predators ever to walk the earth. The Bone Wars helped to put American paleontology on the map, and they fueled a growing public fascination with dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures. Suddenly it seemed everyone was talking about these strange and wonderful animals that had once roamed the earth, and wondering what other secrets the fossil record might hold. But even as Marsh and Cope were making their groundbreaking discoveries, the science of paleontology was still in its infancy. There was so much that remained unknown about the lives and behaviours of these ancient creatures, so many questions that could only be answered through careful study and analysis. In the early 20th century, a new generation of paleontologists would take up this challenge, armed with an ever-growing body of fossil evidence and an increasing sophistication in their methods and techniques. Among them was a young scientist named John Ostrom, whose work would help to revolutionise our understanding of dinosaurs and their place in the natural world. Ostrom was fascinated by the question of how dinosaurs had lived and behaved, what kind of animals they really were, beyond the bare bones of their fossil remains. To answer this question, he turned to the study of modern animals, looking for clues that might shed light on the habits and lifestyles of their prehistoric counterparts. One of the key insights that Ostrom gleaned from this work was the importance of studying the anatomy and biomechanics of living creatures in order to understand their extinct relatives. By examining the way that muscles attach to bones, for example, he could make inferences about how dinosaurs might have moved and carried themselves. Ostrom also pioneered the use of new techniques like microscopic analysis of tooth wear patterns, which could provide clues about what kinds of foods different dinosaurs ate and how they processed their meals, and he was among the first to recognize the importance of studying dinosaur trackways, the fossilized footprints and other traces that these animals left behind, as a way of understanding their behavior and social dynamics. But perhaps Ostrom's most lasting contribution to the field of paleontology came from his work on a small predatory dinosaur called Deinonychus. In the 1960s, while studying this creature's anatomy, Ostrom began to notice some intriguing similarities between Deinonychus and modern birds, similarities that would ultimately lead him to propose a radical new idea about the evolutionary relationship between birds and dinosaurs. At the time, the prevailing view was that dinosaurs were sluggish, cold-blooded creatures, more akin to reptiles than to the active, warm-blooded birds we know today. But Ostrom's work suggested a different story. He argued that Deinonychus and other small, agile dinosaurs were actually more similar to birds in their anatomy and behavior, that they were quick, active creatures with high metabolisms and complex social lives. This idea, which came to be known as the dinosaur renaissance, would fundamentally transform our understanding of these ancient animals. Suddenly, the old image of dinosaurs as lumbering, dim-witted brutes gave way to a new vision of them as dynamic, intelligent creatures, more like birds than reptiles. In the decades that followed, new discoveries would only serve to strengthen this shifting perspective. Fossilized dinosaur nests and eggs provided evidence of complex parental care and social behaviors, while rare impressions of skin and feathers hinted at the incredible diversity of these animals' appearances and lifestyles. Gradually, through painstaking detective work and a growing understanding of the connections between ancient and modern life, the prehistoric world began to come alive in scientists' minds. A vivid, pulsing ecosystem filled with creatures that were at once strange and familiar, alien and intimately connected to the living things we know today. Of course, dinosaurs are only one part of the incredible story of ancient life on Earth. The fossil record is filled with countless other creatures that lived before, during, and after the age of the dinosaurs, each with its own unique history and place in the grand tapestry of evolution. There were the early synapsids like Dimetrodon, for example, not true dinosaurs, but rather a group of ancient reptiles characterized by the large sail-like structures on their backs. These creatures lived during the Permian period, more than 250 million years ago, and they were among the first vertebrates to evolve specialized teeth for different purposes, a key adaptation that would later allow mammals to diversify into a wide range of ecological niches. During the age of the dinosaurs, the oceans were home to a dizzying array of marine reptiles, from the dolphin-like ichthyosaurs to the long-necked plesiosaurs. These creatures filled the roles that would later be taken over by whales and other marine mammals, chasing fish, squid, and other prey through the ancient seas. And in the skies above, pterosaurs, the first vertebrates to evolve powered flight, soared on leathery wings, some with wingspans as wide as a modern-day fighter jet. These incredible creatures were not dinosaurs, but rather a separate lineage of flying reptiles that diversified into a wide range of forms, from tiny insectivores to massive fish-eaters. But perhaps the most remarkable story of life after the dinosaurs belongs to the mammals, the furry, warm-blooded creatures that we count among our closest evolutionary kin. For much of the age of the dinosaurs, mammals were small, unassuming creatures, eking out a living in the shadows of their larger, more dominant reptilian cousins. But after the Great Extinction event that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs some 66 million years ago, mammals underwent an astonishing explosion of diversity and size. Within just a few million years, they had evolved into a bewildering array of forms, from tiny shrew-like creatures to massive, lumbering behemoths. Among the most iconic of these ancient mammals were the woolly mammoths, the great shaggy elephants that roamed the frozen tundra of the Pleistocene era. These creatures were first recognized as a distinct species in the 1700s, thanks to the work of French naturalist Georges Cuvier. Cuvier was a pioneering figure in the study of comparative anatomy, the science of understanding the relationships between living and extinct creatures by studying their physical characteristics. When he first examined the fossilized bones of a mammoth, he realized that they were distinct from those of any living elephant, a discovery that helped to establish extinction as a real and ongoing process in the history of life on Earth. Other remarkable mammals of the Pleistocene included the giant ground sloths, which could grow as large as a modern-day elephant, the armadillo-like glyptodonts, with their bony turtle-like shells, and the fearsome dire wolves, which were larger and more heavily built than any wolf alive today. These creatures were first described in the 1700s and 1800s, based on fossilized bones and tracks found in Europe, South America, and North America. Paleontologists like Cuvier and his apprentice, Alcide d'Orbigny, helped to map out the incredible diversity of this lost megafauna, a menagerie of giants that would capture the public imagination and inspire countless works of art and literature. In more recent years, the study of ancient life has been revolutionized by new technologies and techniques that allow us to peer even deeper into the past. Advances in DNA sequencing, for example, have made it possible to extract and analyze genetic material from fossils that are tens or even hundreds of thousands of years old. By studying this ancient DNA, scientists can gain insights into the evolutionary relationships between extinct and living species, as well as into the physical characteristics and behaviors of long-vanished creatures. In some cases, they have even been able to determine the color of an extinct animal's fur or feathers, details that were once thought to be lost forever in the depths of time. Other techniques like stable isotope analysis allow paleontologists to reconstruct the diets and environments of ancient animals based on the chemical signatures preserved in their bones and teeth. And new imaging technologies like CT scanning and 3D modeling are providing unprecedented views of the internal structures of fossils, revealing details of anatomy and function that were previously hidden from view. But perhaps the most important lesson that we can learn from the study of ancient life is the incredible dynamism and resilience of our planet's ecosystems. Over the vast expanse of geological time, the Earth has undergone countless transformations, from the shifting of continents to the rise and fall of sea levels to the dramatic fluctuations of global climate. Through it all, life has persisted, adapting, evolving, and finding new ways to thrive in even the most challenging of circumstances. Mass extinctions, like the one that wiped out the dinosaurs, have at times decimated the planet's biodiversity. But in the aftermath of these catastrophic events, new forms of life have always emerged to take their place. By studying the ancient past, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity and fragility of the natural world, and for the incredible capacity of life to endure and adapt in the face of even the most profound challenges. From the lush, swampy forests of the Carboniferous period to the icy, wind-swept tundra of the Pleistocene, every epoch of Earth's history has hosted its own unique assemblage of creatures and ecosystems, each one a testament to the endless creativity and resilience of life. And as we drift off to sleep, through the pioneering work of early paleontologists like Georges Cuvier and Alcide d'Orbigny, a clearer picture began to emerge of the remarkable mammals that once roamed our planet. Among the most captivating of these ancient beasts was the Megatherium, a ground sloth of truly epic proportions. First described by Cuvier in 1796 based on a nearly complete skeleton sent to him from Argentina, the Megatherium stretched up to 20 feet from snout to tail tip and weighed in at an impressive 4 tons. That's about as much as a modern Asian elephant. But this gentle giant was no mere scaled-up version of today's tree-dwelling sloths. It was built for power. Thick bones and robust muscular limbs allowed Megatherium to haul its massive bulk around as it browsed for tasty vegetation. And what a browse it must have been. Detailed studies of its jaw and teeth suggest Megatherium had a highly flexible lower lip, almost like a short trunk, that it used to grasp and pluck foliage. Couple that with an elongated tongue for reaching succulent leaves, and you have the makings of a megafauna salad specialist par excellence. But Megatherium wasn't just a gentle herbivore. It had claws, massive scimitar-like claws, each around a foot long. These formidable implements were likely used for defense, or perhaps to hook down branches and scrape bark from trees. Some researchers have even suggested Megatherium could rear up on its hind legs and tail to reach lofty boughs, like a furry sloth-shaped bipedal harvester. It's an evocative image, this great shaggy beast lumbering across the South American landscape, rearing up to tear vegetation asunder. And for a time, it was one of the most successful mammals on the continent, ranging from the pampas of Argentina to the mountain forests of Peru. So what happened to the mighty Megatherium? As with so many of its Ice Age contemporaries, The ground sloth's fortunes seem to have shifted with the climate. Around 10,000 years ago, as the great glaciers receded and seasonality in plant growth and rainfall increased, megatherium populations began to dwindle. Competition with other herbivores, including the bizarre glyptodonts and toxodonts, may have further stressed the species. But the killing blow appears to have come from a newly arrived predator, one with a penchant for hurling spears and a knack for cooperative hunting. Yes, our own ancestors, the first humans to venture into South America, likely played a role in pushing megatherium and its megafaunal brethren into oblivion. Archaeologists have found butchered megatherium bones at ancient human campsites, suggesting these early hunter-gatherers occasionally enjoyed a sloth steak supper. Even for a beast as formidable as megatherium, the combination of habitat change and human predation proved too much. By around 8,000 years ago, the ground sloths had disappeared, never to lumber across the New World again. But while megatherium is gone, it's far from forgotten. Its bones have graced museum halls and captured imaginations for over 2 centuries. And in recent years, new scientific techniques have allowed us to peer even deeper into its life and times. Analyses of megatherium's teeth and bones, for instance, have revealed chemical signatures that confirm its leafy diet and hint at the types of plants it preferred. Scrutiny of its skull has uncovered evidence for surprisingly large nasal turbinates, scroll-like structures that would have given this sloth an acute sense of smell. Perhaps it used its schnoz to sniff out particularly succulent greenery. Even more intriguingly, the discovery of preserved megatherium dung has offered an unprecedented window into its gut microbiome. Yes, you heard that right. Ancient sloth poop, complete with identifiable plant remains and fossilized bacteria. These unassuming organic remnants are like time capsules, allowing scientists to reconstruct the intricate dance of digestion and fermentation that played out in megatherium's cavernous bowels. It's all a bit surreal to imagine a team of intrepid researchers high-fiving over primeval feces. But that's the wonder and weirdness of paleontology. Every fossil, from the most imposing skeleton to the humblest coprolite, has a story to tell about the life and times of creatures long extinct. For megatherium, that story is one of a mighty beast that once roamed the wilds of South America, shaping the very landscape with its bulk and appetites. It's a tale of changing climates and shifting fortunes, of competition and predation, and ultimately of extinction. But it's also a tale of survival, not of the creature itself, but of the clues it left behind, in teeth and bone and yes, even in dung. So the next time you see a megatherium skeleton looming over you in some grand museum hall, pause for a moment to consider the life it led. Imagine it rearing up to tear down branches, its great claws flashing in the sun. Picture it lumbering through primeval forests, its sensitive snout twitching as it catches the scent of tender leaves. And spare a thought for the bacteria that once called its gut home, now immortalized in the stuff of paleontological legend. This, then, is the legacy of megatherium, a window into a world both strange and familiar, where giants walked the earth and left their mark in ways both grand and humble. It's a reminder of the power of paleontology to bring even the most distant past to life, one fossil at a time. Of course, megatherium was just one of the many marvelous mammals to grace the Pleistocene stage. From the saber-toothed cats that stalked the plains to the mastodons that trumpeted across the tundra, the Ice Age bestiary was a parade of the peculiar and the grand. Consider the glyptodonts, for instance, great armadillo-like creatures clad in bony shells the size of small cars. These walking tanks trundled across the pampas, their stubby legs and armoured hides making them nearly impervious to predators. Only the most determined of attackers, like the fearsome saber-tooth, could hope to crack their defences. Then there were the mastodons, close cousins of the mammoths that range from Eurasia to the Americas. With their long, curving tusks and shaggy coats, these imposing herbivores cut a striking figure on the Ice Age landscape, and like megatherium, they too have left us clues to their diets and behaviours. Mastodon teeth, for example, are often scored with deep grooves and pits, suggesting these beasts were serious bark chewers, and in a few rare cases spectacularly well-preserved mastodon carcasses have been discovered, their stomach contents and even their dung intact. Talk about a blast from the past. These incredible finds offer us an unprecedented glimpse into the daily lives of creatures that vanished 10,000 years ago. We can see what they ate, how they moved, even what parasites plagued their guts. It's like a window into a lost world, one where giant sloths and armoured behemoths roamed alongside early humans in a landscape on the brink of change. And change it did. As the glaciers retreated and the climate warmed, many of these magnificent megafauna found themselves in a world transformed. Grasslands gave way to forests, altering the menu for grazers and browsers alike. Some species adapted, evolving into new forms better suited to the shifting environment. Others, like Megatherium and its kin, faded into extinction, leaving only their bones to tell the tale. It's a sobering reminder of the fragility of even the most imposing creatures, and of the power of climate and human activity to reshape the world. But it's also a testament to the resilience of life, to the way new species and ecosystems arise from the ashes of the old. And for us, the paleontologists and enthusiasts who study these vanished worlds, it's an endless source of wonder and fascination. With every fossil found and every new technique developed, we learn a little more about the creatures that once called our planet home. From the tiniest microfossil to the mightiest mastodon skull, each discovery adds a brushstroke to the grand canvas of life's history. And as we piece together the clues left behind by long-dead organisms, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity and beauty of the natural world in all its ever-changing forms. So as we drift off to sleep tonight, let us dream of Megatherium and its Pleistocene cohorts, of a world where giants walked the earth and left their mark in tooth and bone and coprolite. And let us marvel at the power of science to bring that world back to life, one fossil at a time, so that we may wander among the Ice Age ghosts and commune with the megafauna of ages past. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of ancient extinct animals, it's worth noting that our understanding of these creatures is constantly evolving. Each new fossil discovery has the potential to rewrite what we thought we knew, filling in gaps and challenging long-held assumptions. Take, for example, the curious case of the Spinosaurus. When its remains were first discovered in Egypt in 1912 by German paleontologist Ernst Stromer, it was initially thought to be a fairly typical large predatory dinosaur, not unlike its more famous cousin Tyrannosaurus rex. However, the original Spinosaurus fossils were sadly destroyed during the bombing of Munich in World War II, leaving only Stromer's notes and drawings to go on. It wasn't until the early 2000s that new Spinosaurus fossils were found, painting a very different picture of this enigmatic animal. The bones suggested that Spinosaurus had several adaptations for an aquatic lifestyle, including dense bones for buoyancy control and a long narrow snout filled with conical teeth for catching fish. This discovery sent shockwaves through the paleontological community. The idea of a semi-aquatic dinosaur was virtually unheard of at the time, and it forced scientists to rethink what they thought they knew about the ecological roles of large predatory dinosaurs. But the Spinosaurus story didn't end there. In 2020, a comprehensive redescription of the available fossil material proposed an even more radical interpretation, that Spinosaurus was actually a fully aquatic animal, with a tail fin and webbed feet for swimming. This controversial idea is still being debated, but it highlights just how much our understanding of even a single extinct species can shift with new evidence. Of course, Spinosaurus is far from the only ancient animal to undergo a radical reimagining in recent years. The small, simple feathered dinosaur Sinosauropteryx, described in 1996 based on exquisitely preserved fossils from China, helped solidify the now widely accepted idea that many dinosaurs sported feathery coats. The 1993 discovery of Ambulocetus, an early cetacean with limbs still adapted for walking on land, shed light on the evolutionary transition of whales from terrestrial to fully aquatic mammals, and the 2017 description of Kayentopus, a trackway left by a long-necked sauropod dinosaur, showed that these behemoths could rear up on their hind legs, a feat previously thought impossible due to their size and weight. All of these examples illustrate the endlessly fascinating nature of paleontology. No matter how much we think we know about the past, there are always new surprises waiting to be unearthed. It's a humbling reminder of the vastness and complexity of life's history on this planet. And so, as we continue our journey through the annals of ancient extinct animals, we must keep an open mind. The creatures we'll encounter may seem familiar at first glance, but a closer look often reveals them to be far stranger and more wondrous than we ever could have imagined. Take the giant ground sloth Megatherium, for instance. When its bones were first studied by French naturalist Georges Cuvier in the early 1800s, he recognized that they belonged to some sort of enormous extinct mammal, but he couldn't quite figure out what kind. It wasn't until later that more complete skeletons revealed Megatherium's true nature as a lumbering, plant-eating relative of modern tree sloths. But even then, the true strangeness of this Ice Age beast was only beginning to come into focus. Further studies of its anatomy suggested that Megatherium could rear up on its hind legs to reach high branches, using its massive clawed forearms to pull them down within reach of its mouth. And then there are the mysteries of its extinction. For a long time, it was assumed that Megatherium and other large Ice Age mammals were wiped out by the changing climate at the end of the last glacial period. But more recent evidence, including spear points found embedded in Megatherium bones, suggests that human hunting may have also played a role in their demise. It's a sobering reminder that even the mightiest of creatures are not immune to the forces of change, whether they be environmental or at the hands of a clever upstart primate with a knack for tool-making. And what of the other great beasts that roamed alongside Megatherium in the Americas? The armoured glyptodonts, like giant armadillos the size of small cars. The fearsome dire wolves, larger and more heavily built than any wolf alive today. The saber-toothed cats with their elongated canine teeth that have captured the human imagination for centuries. Each of these animals has a story to tell, a unique evolutionary history that is only just beginning to be unravelled. Through the tireless efforts of paleontologists, we are slowly but surely piecing together the intricate web of life that once thrived during the Pleistocene epoch. We can imagine a herd of Columbian mammoths, their great tusks gleaming in the sun as they make their way across the grasslands of what is now the western United States. In their midst, perhaps a group of Paleoloxodons, a smaller, more primitive species of elephant joins the march. Nearby, a pack of dire wolves may be on the prowl, their keen noses sniffing the air for signs of prey. They move with a quiet intensity, their muscular frames exuding an aura of coiled power. And in the distance, a lone short-faced bear lumbers along the edge of a forest. This massive omnivore, standing up to 12 feet tall on its hind legs, is a formidable presence on the prehistoric landscape. As the sun begins to set, casting a warm glow over the ancient tableau, a sense of timelessness descends. For a moment we can almost imagine ourselves there, witnesses to a world that is at once alien and achingly familiar. But the reverie is short-lived. The reality is that this world and all the creatures that called it home are long gone. They exist now only in the fossil record and in our collective imagination. It's a poignant reminder of the impermanence of life on Earth. Species rise and fall, ecosystems shift and change, and even the mighty can be laid low by the inexorable march of time. And yet, in a strange way, this knowledge only serves to deepen our appreciation for the natural world around us. We are the inheritors of an incredible legacy, the product of billions of years of evolution and adaptation. Every creature alive today, from the tiniest microbe to the largest whale, is a testament to the resilience and creativity of life itself. And in studying the past, in seeking to understand the lives and times of long-extinct animals, we are really trying to understand ourselves and our place in the grand scheme of things. So let us continue to explore, to question, and to marvel at the wonders of the prehistoric world. For in doing so, we honour the memory of all the creatures that came before us, and we reaffirm our own connection to the vast, intricate web of life that stretches back to the very dawn of time. As we drift off into the realm of dreams, may we carry with us a sense of wonder at the incredible story of life on Earth. May we be inspired to cherish and protect the living world around us, knowing that we too are part of a lineage that stretches back to the age of dinosaurs and beyond. And may we never lose sight of the fact that, for all our scientific knowledge and technological prowess, we are still just one small part of a much larger and endlessly fascinating whole. Good night, and sweet dreams of ancient creatures long past but never forgotten. As we've seen, the pioneering work of early paleontologists like Gideon Mantell, Mary Anning, and Georges Cuvier laid the foundation for our understanding of ancient extinct animals. But the story of how we pieced together the lives and worlds of these bygone creatures was just beginning. In the late 1800s, the American West became a hotbed of fossil hunting, thanks in large part to the intense rivalry between two of the era's most prominent paleontologists, Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope. Marsh, a professor at Yale, and Cope, a member of the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia, engaged in a bitter competition to discover and name as many new dinosaur species as possible. Their race, which became known as the Bone Wars, was characterized by hasty and sloppy science, underhanded tactics, and even outright deception. Cope and Marsh would often spy on each other's digs, bribe workers to switch sides, and even dynamite hillsides to prevent the other from accessing fossils. In their rush to outdo each other, they sometimes misidentified or mislabeled specimens, leading to confusion and errors that took decades to sort out. Despite the less than noble motivations behind the Bone Wars, the fierce competition between Marsh and Cope had a silver lining. Their relentless fossil hunting greatly expanded the number of known dinosaur species and put North America on the map as a major centre for paleontological research. Among Marsh's most famous finds were the first fossils of Stegosaurus, Triceratops, and Apatosaurus, initially named Brontosaurus. Cope, meanwhile, discovered and named dinosaurs like Camarasaurus, Colophysis, and the fearsome carnivore Dimetrodon, which despite appearances was actually more closely related to mammals than dinosaurs. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, the focus of paleontology shifted from simply naming and cataloguing extinct species to trying to understand how they actually lived. This required a more nuanced approach, one that looked beyond the bones to the clues left behind in the surrounding rock and the structure of the fossils themselves. One of the pioneers of this new way of thinking was John Ostrom, a paleontologist at Yale University. In the 1960s, Ostrom began studying a small predatory dinosaur called Deinonychus, which had been discovered a few decades earlier in Montana. As he pored over the fossils, Ostrom noticed something curious. The animal's skeleton was remarkably bird-like, with long slender limbs, a stiffened tail, and a large sickle-shaped claw on each foot. Intrigued, Ostrom delved deeper, examining the microscopic structure of Deinonychus's bones and comparing them to those of modern birds. He found striking similarities, including hollow air-filled spaces in the skeleton and attachment points for powerful muscles. Ostrom began to suspect that, far from being sluggish, cold-blooded reptiles, some dinosaurs may have been quick, agile, and even warm-blooded, more like birds than lizards. This idea, which became known as the dinosaur renaissance, sent shockwaves through the paleontological community. It challenged the prevailing view of dinosaurs as plodding, dim-witted brutes and suggested that they were far more complex and dynamic than previously thought. Ostrom's work on Deinonychus and other bird-like dinosaurs helped to usher in a new era of paleontology, one that looked at these ancient animals as living, breathing creatures, not just dusty skeletons in a museum. As the 20th century progressed, new discoveries and technologies helped to flesh out this emerging picture of dinosaurs as active, vital members of their ecosystems. In the 1970s and 80s, for example, the discovery of fossilized dinosaur nests and eggs provided evidence that many species engaged in complex parental behaviors, such as brooding and caring for their young. Rare impressions of dinosaur skin and feathers also began to surface, giving paleontologists a tantalizing glimpse of what these animals may have looked like in life. Meanwhile, advances in areas like biomechanics and computer modeling allowed scientists to simulate how dinosaurs moved and interacted with their environment. By studying the shape and arrangement of bones, the structure of muscles, and the distribution of weight in the skeleton, paleontologists could create detailed reconstructions of dinosaur posture, gait, and even speed. These analyses revealed that many dinosaurs were likely far more nimble and athletic than the lumbering giants of popular imagination. Some may have even been capable of bursts of speed rivaling that of modern animals. Of course, dinosaurs weren't the only stars of the prehistoric show. The fossil record is full of other fascinating creatures that lived before, during, and after the age of the dinosaurs. Take, for instance, the ancient marine reptiles that ruled the seas while dinosaurs dominated on land. One of the most iconic of these was the ichthyosaur, a sleek, dolphin-like predator that glided through the water with powerful flippers and a long, toothy snout. First described in the early 1800s by English paleontologist William Conybeare, ichthyosaurs were among the earliest extinct animals to capture the public imagination. With their streamlined bodies and large sensitive eyes, they seemed almost tailor-made for a life of chasing fish and squid through the Mesozoic oceans. Conybeare and his colleague, Henry de la Beche, helped to bring these remarkable creatures to life through detailed scientific descriptions and evocative artwork, setting the stage for a golden age of marine reptile paleontology. Another group of ocean-dwelling predators that thrived during the time of the dinosaurs were the plesiosaurs. These long-necked, paddle-limbed reptiles ranged in size from a few meters to over 40 feet long, making them some of the largest animals of their time. Plesiosaurs were first discovered by Mary Anning, the pioneering English fossil hunter, who also unearthed the first complete ichthyosaur skeleton. Anning's work in the early 1800s helped to establish the scientific study of marine reptiles and inspired a generation of paleontologists to follow in her footsteps. Her most famous find, a nearly complete plesiosaur skeleton that she uncovered in 1823, was so unusual that many experts initially doubted its authenticity. Some even accused Anning of fabricating the fossil, unable to believe that such a bizarre creature could have ever existed. It was only through the careful study and comparison of Anning's specimen with other fossils that the true nature of plesiosaurs became clear. These weren't mythical sea serpents or ancient dragons, but real, flesh-and-blood animals that had once swum through the Mesozoic seas. Anning's discovery helped to cement the idea of extinction in the scientific consciousness and opened up a whole new realm of inquiry into the history of life on Earth. Of course, no discussion of prehistoric marine life would be complete without mentioning the giant shark Megalodon. This fearsome predator, which lived from about 23 to 3.6 million years ago, was one of the largest fish ever to exist, reaching lengths of up to 60 feet or more. With its massive, serrated teeth and powerful jaws, Megalodon was capable of taking down prey as large as whales, making it the apex predator of its time. Despite its fearsome reputation, however, Megalodon is known only from a handful of fossil teeth and vertebrae. Because shark skeletons are made mostly of cartilage, which doesn't fossilize well, we have very little direct evidence of what this giant predator looked like or how it lived. Instead, paleontologists have had to rely on comparisons with modern sharks and other lines of evidence, such as bite marks on fossilized whale bones, to piece together a picture of Megalodon's ecology and behavior. What they've found is that Megalodon was likely a highly specialized hunter, adapted for a life of chasing down large, fast-moving prey. Its teeth, which could reach over 7 inches in length, were perfectly shaped for piercing and slicing through flesh, while its powerful tail and streamlined body would have made it a formidable swimmer. Some researchers have even suggested that Megalodon may have been warm-blooded, allowing it to maintain a high level of activity and pursue its prey over long distances. But while Megalodon may have been one of the most impressive predators of the ancient seas, it was far from the only one. The oceans of the past were home to a dizzying array of strange and wonderful creatures, from massive crocodile-like thalattosuchians to long-snouted, needle-toothed fish like Siphactinus. Each of these animals played a unique role in the complex web of life that existed in the prehistoric oceans, and each has a story to tell about the incredible diversity and resilience of life on Earth. As we move from the water to the land, we find ourselves in the realm of some of the most iconic extinct animals of all time, the mammoths, mastodons, and other megafauna that roamed the Earth during the most recent ice ages. These massive, shaggy creatures were some of the last of the great prehistoric giants, and their sudden disappearance around 10,000 years ago has long been one of the great mysteries of paleontology. The first hints of these vanished beasts came in the early 1800s, when the French naturalist Georges Cuvier began studying the fossilized bones and teeth of strange, elephant-like creatures that had been found across Europe and Siberia. Cuvier was struck by the similarities between these fossils and the bones of modern elephants, but he also noticed some key differences. The ancient creatures had longer, more curved tusks, and their teeth were adapted for grinding up tough vegetation. Cuvier proposed that these fossils belonged to a new species of elephant that had gone extinct in the distant past, a bold claim at a time when the idea of extinction was still controversial. He named the creature Elephas primigenius, or the firstborn elephant, and argued that it had once roamed the steppes of Eurasia before being wiped out by some unknown catastrophe. Cuvier's work helped to establish the study of extinct mammals as a legitimate scientific pursuit, and his ideas about the mammoth and other Ice Age giants influenced a generation of naturalists and paleontologists. One of the most famous of these was the French paleontologist Alcide d'Orbigny, who travelled extensively throughout South America in the early 1800s, collecting fossils and studying the geology of the region. D'Orbigny's most famous discovery came in 1840, when he uncovered the remains of a massive ground sloth in Argentina. The creature, which d'Orbigny named Megatherium, was unlike anything that had ever been seen before. It was the size of an elephant, with huge curved claws and a long, powerful tail. D'Orbigny's description of the creature captured the imagination of the scientific world and helped to spark a new interest in the strange and wonderful mammals of the Ice Age. In the decades that followed, more and more fossils of Ice Age giants were uncovered across the Americas, Europe and Asia. There were mastodons and woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats and cave bears, giant beavers and armadillo-like glyptodonts. Each new discovery added to the growing sense that the Ice Age world had been a very different place than the one we know today. A place where massive, shaggy beasts roamed the landscape and where humans were just one small part of a much larger ecosystem. But even as paleontologists were piecing together the story of these incredible creatures, they were also grappling with the mystery of their disappearance. What had caused these giants to vanish from the face of the Earth, seemingly overnight? Was it climate change, human hunting, or some combination of factors? To answer these questions, scientists have turned to a variety of tools and techniques, from ancient DNA analysis to the study of pollen and other environmental indicators. What they've found is that the story of the Ice Age extinctions is a complex one, with no single cause or culprit. In some cases, such as with the mammoths of North America, human hunting may have played a key role in their demise. In others, such as with the giant ground sloths of South America, climate change and habitat loss may have been the primary drivers. Regardless of the specific causes, however, the disappearance of the Ice Age giants marks a turning point in the history of life on Earth. It was the end of an era, a time when the world was ruled by massive shaggy beasts that had no equal, and it was the beginning of a new age, one in which humans would emerge as the dominant force on the planet, shaping the landscape and the ecosystem in ways that would have been unimaginable to the giants of the past. As we ponder the fate of these incredible creatures, it's worth remembering that extinction is a natural part of the history of life on Earth. Species come and go, ecosystems change and evolve, and the world is constantly in flux. But it's also worth remembering that today, in the 21st century, we are living through an extinction event of our own making, one that threatens to wipe out countless species and reshape the planet in ways that we're only beginning to understand. In this context, the story of the ancient extinct animals takes on a new urgency and relevance. By studying the past, we can gain insights into the present and the future, and we can begin to grapple with the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Whether it's through the lens of paleontology, ecology, or conservation biology, the study of ancient extinct animals has much to teach us about the incredible resilience and adaptability of life on Earth, and about the role that we play in shaping the world around us. As we drift off to sleep tonight, let us dream of the giants that once roamed the Earth, the mammoths and mastodons, the saber-toothed cats and dire wolves, the ground sloths and glyptodonts. Let us imagine them as they were in life, roaming the vast, icy steppes of the Pleistocene, their breath steaming in the cold air, their footsteps shaking the ground beneath them. And let us remember that even though they are gone, they are not forgotten, that they live on in the fossil record, in the stories we tell, and in the unending cycle of life, death, and renewal that has shaped the Earth for millions of years, and will shape it for millions more. In the end, the study of ancient extinct animals is a testament to the power of science to uncover the secrets of the past, and to the enduring fascination that we humans have with the natural world around us. It is a reminder that even in the face of great change and upheaval, life finds a way, that it adapts, evolves, and persists, leaving behind a record of its passing in the rocks and fossils beneath our feet. So let us continue to explore this record, to uncover the stories of the creatures that once roamed the Earth, and to marvel at the incredible diversity and resilience of life in all its forms. For in doing so, we not only gain a deeper understanding of the past, but also a greater appreciation for the present, and a clearer vision of the future that we hope to create. Picture a vast, wind-swept plain stretching as far as the eye can see. Bison graze peacefully in the distance, their shaggy coats gleaming in the late afternoon sun. A sense of timeless tranquility pervades the scene, but this serenity is shattered by a sudden commotion in the tall grass nearby. A pack of dire wolves, larger and more powerfully built than any wolf alive today, emerges in hot pursuit of a lone bison separated from the herd. These formidable predators, now lost to time, once roamed across much of the Americas and Eurasia during the Pleistocene epoch. dire wolves were well adapted to taking down large prey like bison, horses, and even young mammoths, thanks to their sizable canine teeth and robust skulls capable of delivering bone-crushing bites. The La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles have yielded thousands of dire wolf skeletons, hinting at their abundance in Ice Age North America. Yet despite their fearsome reputation, dire wolves weren't always the apex predators of their domain. They faced stiff competition from the likes of saber-toothed cats and giant short-faced bears. These massive carnivores, which could stand over 10 feet tall on their hind legs, were the largest bears to ever walk the earth. Their long limbs suggest they were fast runners, perhaps chasing down fleet-footed prey like wild horses. Saber-toothed cats were also formidable hunters, armed with elongated canine teeth that protruded menacingly from their jaws. For a long time, paleontologists assumed these outsized fangs were used to deliver slashing attacks, but more recent biomechanical studies suggest they were better suited for a precise stabbing bite to the throat. Different species of saber-toothed cats stalked the Americas, Europe, Asia, and Africa at various times throughout the Pliocene and Pleistocene. Imagine a tense confrontation between these fierce competitors, a pack of dire wolves squaring off against a giant short-faced bear or saber-toothed cat, each vying for the rights to a hard-won kill. Clues from fossil skeletons like healed wounds and fractures show these ancient predators often led dangerous lives. Many bear the scars of violent clashes, either with prey fighting for their lives or rivals contesting a carcass. These epic scenes played out against the backdrop of the Ice Age, a time of seesawing climate changes when glaciers advanced and retreated across the continents. Around 2.5 million years ago, dropping temperatures allowed cold-adapted animals to expand out of the polar regions and into lower latitudes. Herds of shaggy-coated creatures like mammoths, mastodons, woolly rhinos, and steppe bison spread across the chilly steppes of Eurasia and North America. But the Ice Age wasn't uniformly cold. The Pleistocene climate oscillated between colder glacial periods and warmer interglacial times. These fluctuations shaped the world inhabited by Ice Age beasts, with shifting vegetation patterns and rising and falling sea levels altering the landscape over millennia. During warmer spells, creatures like hippos and elephants even roamed as far north as the British Isles. One of the most iconic Ice Age animals, the woolly mammoth, was especially well suited to the chilly climes of Pleistocene Eurasia. With their dense coats of long outer hairs and soft inner wool, compact ears, and abbreviated tails, mammoths were built to withstand the cold. Digs in the Siberian permafrost have revealed frozen mammoth carcasses with much of their soft tissue still intact, offering unprecedented glimpses into their adaptations. Paleontologists have pored over these rare finds, uncovering remarkable details about mammoth biology. The chemical makeup of their bones and teeth shows mammoths were grazers, feeding mainly on grasses and sedges, where patterns on their massive flat-topped molars hint that these behemoths were fond of abrasive foods, using their long, dexterous trunks and tusks to clear snow and dig for roots and tubers. In 2013, a beautifully preserved mammoth carcass was unearthed by a family in Siberia, who named the juvenile male Zhenya after their son. Studies of Zhenya's remains revealed incredible insights, like the presence of baby fat behind his neck that may have helped him stay warm. Chemical signatures in Zhenya's bones even suggest he was breastfed for the first year of his life, hinting at the strong maternal bonds in mammoth family units. But how did such magnificently adapted creatures ultimately meet their demise? The causes behind the extinction of the woolly mammoth and other Ice Age megafauna have long been debated. Climate change, human hunting pressure, habitat loss, and even a cataclysmic meteor impact have all been proposed as potential culprits. As the Pleistocene gave way to the Holocene around 11,700 years ago, the world began to warm, ice sheets retreated, and sea levels rose, drowning coastal plains. With the last big freeze coming to an end, cold-adapted animals face shrinking habitats and changing vegetation. At the same time, human hunters with sophisticated weaponry like throwing spears were spreading across the globe, taking a toll on megafaunal populations. On isolated islands like Wrangel off the Siberian coast, pockets of woolly mammoths managed to hang on until as recently as 4,000 years ago. But eventually these last holdouts vanished, marking the end of a spectacular era in Earth's history. The majestic mammals that thundered across vast Ice Age steppes had finally succumbed, whether to a changing climate, human impacts, or a combination of factors. Today, all that remains of these vanished beasts are scattered bones and the occasional astonishingly preserved specimen like Genya, tantalizing time capsules hinting at lost worlds. Through the dedicated efforts of paleontologists, we're slowly piecing together a clearer picture of how they lived and what might have spelled their ultimate doom. As we contemplate the plight of the woolly mammoth and other extinct marvels, it's hard not to draw parallels with the challenges facing many species today. Climate change, habitat loss, and human pressures continue to shape the fate of creatures great and small. By better understanding the demise of the Ice Age megafauna, we may yet find clues to help us navigate an uncertain future. But for now, we can take solace in the remarkable story of life on Earth, with all its twists, turns, and unexpected marvels. As we drift off to sleep, the echoes of these long-lost giants may still rumble through our dreams, reminders of the fleeting grandeur of those who walked before us, and the preciousness of every creature in nature's ever-unfolding saga. For part 3, let's explore the ancient mammals and other mesmerizing creatures that came before and after the reign of the dinosaurs. Picture the Earth some 290 million years ago, during the Permian period. In those distant times, long before the first dinosaurs, a remarkable group of reptiles known as synapsids held sway. Among the most iconic was Dimetrodon, a predator with a tall, sail-like crest along its back. For many years, Dimetrodon was commonly mistaken for a dinosaur. But as paleontologists studied its anatomy more closely, they realized it was actually more closely related to mammals like us. The key clue was in its skull. Dimetrodon had differentiated teeth, with incisors, canines, and cheek teeth, a trait seen in mammals but not in dinosaurs. Dimetrodon and its synapsid kin were just some of the strange early cousins of mammals. When the first proto-mammals appeared on the scene around 200 million years ago, dinosaurs were already well established. These early mammals were typically small, rodent-like creatures scurrying beneath the feet of giants. But after the non-avian dinosaurs met their sudden end some 66 million years ago, the mammals seized their chance to take centre stage. In the wake of the dinosaurs' demise, mammals underwent an explosion of diversity, evolving into a dizzying array of shapes and sizes. Let's set the stage with the work of Georges Cuvier, the brilliant French zoologist and paleontologist who first recognized the reality of extinction. In 1796, Cuvier was studying elephant bones and molars that had been unearthed in Europe and Siberia. Previous scholars believed these remains must have belonged to elephants brought northward by the armies of ancient Rome or Hannibal. But as Cuvier examined the teeth more closely, he realized they were distinct from those of living elephants. The mystery was solved when he matched the molars to the fossilized cranium of a woolly mammoth, an extinct species of elephant adapted to the frigid climes of the Ice Age. Cuvier's groundbreaking work on the woolly mammoth was just the tip of the iceberg. As fossil finds accelerated in the 1700s and 1800s, naturalists began to recognize that many unfamiliar bones belonged to prehistoric species that no longer roamed the earth. The remains of giant ground sloths, like the Megatherium first described by Cuvier in 1796, were among the most awe-inspiring. Imagine a sloth the size of an elephant, rearing up on its hind legs to tear leaves from trees with its long claws. Equally imposing was the Glyptodont, an armoured relative of armadillos, with a massive domed shell studded with spiky protrusions. Cuvier's apprentice, Alcide d'Orbigny, followed in his footsteps, making extensive fossil expeditions to South America in the 1820s. There, he unearthed numerous extinct mammals, from Toxodon, a hippo-like ungulate, to Macrauchenia, a long-necked relative of horses and rhinos. D'Orbigny's productive field campaigns helped flesh out the diversity of prehistoric South American fauna. Of course, no discussion of Ice Age mammals would be complete without mentioning the carnivores that hunted them. Few extinct predators have captured the imagination quite like the saber-toothed cat Smilodon. Known for its fearsome elongated canine teeth, Smilodon may have used these natural daggers to deliver a lethal stabbing bite to the throat of its prey. But despite its popular depiction as a merciless killing machine, studies of Smilodon bones and tracks suggest it may have actually been a social animal, perhaps even hunting in lion-like prides. Smilodon was far from the only prehistoric predator that vanished at the end of the Ice Age. The dire wolf, larger than its modern grey wolf counterpart, once prowled the Americas in packs. Its remains have been found in the La Brea tar pits in California, naturally mummified in the sticky asphalt alongside its prey, and in Europe, the cave hyena and cave lion, both now sadly extinct, once reigned as apex predators. The end of the Ice Age, around 11,000 years ago, saw the extinction of many of these magnificent megafauna. Mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and saber-toothed cats all disappeared in a relatively short span of time. The reasons are still debated, but a combination of climate change and human hunting pressure likely played a role. As the world warmed and ice sheets receded, habitats shifted and food sources changed. At the same time, human hunters with sophisticated stone tools were spreading across the globe, potentially adding to the stress on vulnerable populations. In more recent years, the study of ancient DNA preserved in fossils is allowing scientists to probe even deeper into the lives and fates of these extinct mammals. By extracting and sequencing genetic material from bones and teeth, researchers can trace evolutionary relationships, gauge genetic diversity, and even pinpoint the timing and location of population declines. For example, a 2021 study of fossilized mammoths and mastodons suggested North American populations were stable until just a few thousand years before their extinction, when they suddenly crashed, perhaps due to human pressures. Proteins preserved in fossils are also providing new insights. In 2021, scientists were able to reconstruct the hemoglobin protein of extinct South American ungulates, like Toxodon and Macrauchenia, from amino acids preserved in their bones. The biochemical properties of the proteins suggested these animals were adapted to low oxygen conditions at extremely high altitudes, much like modern-day alpacas and vicuñas. It's a compelling example of how the molecular fossils inside ancient bones can reveal details about how extinct creatures lived. As we've seen, the mammals of the Ice Age were a remarkable bunch, from lumbering woolly mammoths and ground sloths to ferocious saber-toothed predators. But they were just the latest in a long line of magnificent extinct mammals that once roamed our planet, from the sail-backed Dimetrodon of the Permian to the scurrying shrew-like ancestors that lived in the shadow of dinosaurs. Through the tireless efforts of paleontologists and fossil hunters, we're able to reconstruct their worlds in ever greater detail, marvelling at the twists and turns of life on Earth. As we rest our weary heads, may dreams of these Ice Age giants and their extraordinary lives carry us off to a peaceful slumber. As we ponder these vanished worlds and the magnificent creatures that once inhabited them, it's worth reflecting on the remarkable individuals who have dedicated their lives to unravelling these ancient mysteries. One such luminary was the brilliant British paleontologist Mary Anning, born in 1799 in the seaside town of Lyme Regis. From a young age, Mary had a keen eye for spotting fossils along the rugged cliffs of the Jurassic coast. Her father, a cabinet maker and amateur fossil collector, taught her the tricks of the trade, how to carefully extract delicate bones from the crumbling shale and limestone. But tragedy struck when Mary was just 11 years old. Her father fell to his death from a cliff while fossil hunting, leaving the family destitute. To make ends meet, Mary and her brother Joseph began selling curiosities, fossils, shells and other natural wonders, to the wealthy tourists who flocked to Lyme Regis for the sea air. It was back-breaking work, scouring the treacherous cliffs for marketable specimens. But Mary had a rare gift. She seemed to know just where to look, as if guided by some preternatural instinct. In 1811, Joseph unearthed a strange skull poking out from the cliffs, a skull that would change the course of Mary's life and paleontology forever. With painstaking care, Mary set about extracting the rest of the skeleton. It took months of toil, but finally she had it, a fearsome marine reptile, the first of its kind ever discovered. The creature was an ichthyosaur, a sleek dolphin-like predator with immense eyes and a long-toothed snout. Mary sold the specimen to a private collector, fetching enough to support her family for 6 months. News of Mary's remarkable find spread quickly through the tight-knit geological community. Before long, scientists and collectors from all over Europe were descending on Lyme Regis, hoping to acquire fossils from the young woman who seemed to have a supernatural knack for sniffing them out. And Mary did not disappoint. Over the next decade, she would unearth a trove of spectacular marine reptiles, more ichthyosaurs, long-necked plesiosaurs, and even a pterosaur, a flying reptile that must have been a wondrous sight soaring over the ancient seas. But perhaps Mary's most significant find came in 1823. when she discovered the first complete skeleton of a plesiosaurus, a marine reptile with a tiny head perched improbably atop a long sinuous neck. The peculiar anatomy of the creature caused a sensation among the scientific establishment. The French anatomist Georges Cuvier, the most eminent paleontologist of the day, was so baffled by the skeleton that he dismissed it as a fake, a crude composite cobbled together from various animals. But Mary knew better. She had painstakingly excavated the plesiosaurus with her own hands, carefully noting the exact position of every bone. This was no forgery, but a revolutionary discovery that would help convince even the most hardened skeptics that extinction was indeed a reality. Despite her groundbreaking finds, Mary Anning struggled for recognition in the male-dominated world of 19th century science. As a working-class woman with little formal education, she was barred from joining the learned societies where her discoveries were debated and discussed. Many of the wealthy collectors who bought her fossils failed to credit her in their scientific papers or even acknowledge her existence. But among her fellow fossil hunters, Mary was a legend, the princess of paleontology, a woman with an almost supernatural gift for conjuring extinct monsters from the unforgiving cliffs. In her later years, Mary's fortunes waxed and waned with the fossil trade. She continued to make important discoveries, including the first British pterosaur and several new species of fish. But competition from other collectors and the fickle taste of the market made for a precarious living. When Mary died of breast cancer in 1847, she left little behind beyond her remarkable fossil collection and a trove of letters chronicling her lifelong love affair with the ancient past. Today, Mary Anning is remembered as a pioneering paleontologist, a woman who defied the conventions of her time to shed light on the vanished worlds of long ago. Her story is one of perseverance, passion, and an unshakable dedication to the pursuit of knowledge. In her dogged quest to wrest secrets from the stones, she helped lay the foundation for our modern understanding of the Earth's history and the incredible creatures that once roamed its surface. As we drift deeper into the embrace of sleep, let us dream of fearsome ichthyosaurs churning through primordial seas and long-necked plesiosaurs undulating gracefully through Mesozoic waterways. Let us imagine pterosaurs soaring on leathery wings above a world more wondrous and strange than we can scarcely imagine. And let us pay tribute to the remarkable men and women, like Mary Anning, who have dedicated their lives to bringing these vanished worlds back to life, one fossil at a time, for it is through their tireless efforts that we are able to glimpse the awe-inspiring pageant of life on Earth, a story written in stone, a tale as old as time itself. And though we may never know all the secrets of the distant past, we can take comfort in the knowledge that each generation of fossil hunters and paleontologists brings us a little closer to understanding the incredible journey that has led us to this moment, here on the knife's edge of eternity. So let us embrace the mystery and the wonder of all that came before us. Let us revel in the impossible strangeness and beauty of the ancient Earth and all the fantastic creatures that once called it home. And as we slip into the welcoming arms of slumber, let us dream of a world more wild and wondrous than we can possibly imagine. A world where anything is possible, and where the only limit is the boundless reaches of our own curiosity and imagination. Good night, and sweet dreams of ancient wonders. Moving on from the remarkable life and legacy of Mary Anning, let us turn our attention to another pioneer in the field of paleontology, the brilliant and eccentric American scientist Edward Drinker Cope. Born into a wealthy Quaker family in Philadelphia in 1840, Cope was a precocious child with an insatiable appetite for knowledge. By the age of 6, he was already collecting fossils and studying the natural world with a passionate intensity that would come to define his entire life. As a young man, Cope attended the University of Pennsylvania, where he studied anatomy and paleontology under the renowned scientist Joseph Leidy. But Cope was a restless soul, and he soon grew frustrated with the staid confines of academia. In 1864, at the age of just 24, he set out on a series of ambitious fossil hunting expeditions to the American West, determined to make his mark on the burgeoning field of paleontology. It was on these expeditions that Cope would make some of his most significant discoveries. In 1868, while exploring the Badlands of New Jersey, he unearthed the first nearly complete skeleton of a carnivorous dinosaur ever found in North America. The creature, which Cope named Laelaps aquilunguis, later renamed Dryptosaurus, was a fearsome predator, with sharp claws and saw-like teeth adapted for slicing through flesh. But Cope's most famous discovery came a few years later, in 1877, when he uncovered the partial remains of a massive herbivorous dinosaur in Colorado. The creature, which Cope named Camarasaurus supremus, was one of the largest land animals that had ever lived, with a long neck and tail and a body that stretched over 60 feet from nose to tail tip. The discovery of Camarasaurus was a sensation, and it helped to cement Cope's reputation as one of the leading paleontologists of his generation. But Cope's success was not without controversy. In 1877, he became embroiled in a bitter feud with his rival, Othniel Charles Marsh, over the discovery and naming rights to a new species of extinct mammal. The dispute, which became known as the Bone Wars, would consume both men for the next 2 decades, as they raced to outdo each other in the field and in the halls of academia. The Bone Wars were a time of ruthless competition and dirty tricks, as Cope and Marsh sought to undermine each other at every turn. They spied on each other's digs, bribed each other's workers, and even resorted to outright theft and sabotage in their quest for scientific supremacy. In one infamous incident, Marsh secretly bought up all the train tickets to a remote fossil site, forcing Cope and his team to make a grueling overland journey on foot. Despite the acrimony of the Bone Wars, the feud between Cope and Marsh ultimately proved to be a boon for paleontology. Between them, the two men discovered and named over 130 new species of dinosaurs, as well as countless other prehistoric creatures. Their rivalry spurred them to work harder and dig deeper than they ever would have on their own, pushing the boundaries of what was possible in the field of paleontology. In the end, however, the Bone Wars took a heavy toll on both men. Cope in particular was left deeply in debt and struggling to keep his head above water. He became increasingly erratic and paranoid, convinced that Marsh was out to destroy him. In 1897, at the age of just 56, Cope died alone in his home, surrounded by the fossils that had been his life's work. Today, Edward Drinker Cope is remembered as one of the most brilliant and influential paleontologists of the 19th century, a man whose passion and determination helped to revolutionize our understanding of the prehistoric world. His discoveries continue to inspire and amaze us, providing a tantalizing glimpse into the incredible diversity and complexity of life on Earth millions of years ago. As we let the tale of Cope and Marsh's fierce rivalry drift through our minds, we can't help but marvel at the incredible lengths to which these two men were willing to go in pursuit of scientific knowledge. Their story is a testament to the enduring power of human curiosity and to the unshakable drive that compels us to seek out the secrets of the universe, no matter the cost. So let's raise a glass to Edward Drinker Cope and to all the other brilliant and eccentric scientists who have dedicated their lives to unraveling the mysteries of the past. May their passion and their perseverance continue to inspire us as we strive to build upon their incredible legacy and push the boundaries of human knowledge ever further. And with that, let us slip once more into the welcoming embrace of sleep, our minds filled with visions of fierce dinosaurs and dueling paleontologists, locked in an eternal struggle for truth and glory. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the wonders of the ancient world. While the Bone Wars raged on between Cope and Marsh, another remarkable figure was quietly making his own groundbreaking contributions to the field of paleontology. His name was Charles Doolittle Walcott, and his story is one of perseverance, ingenuity, and an unshakable commitment to the pursuit of scientific truth. Born in 1850 in New York Mills, New York, Walcott was the son of a farmer and a schoolteacher. From an early age, he showed a keen interest in the natural world, collecting fossils and minerals from the fields and streams around his home. But Walcott's true passion lay in the study of ancient life, and he dreamed of one day becoming a professional paleontologist. Walcott's path to scientific success was not an easy one. He had little formal education, and he struggled to find work in his chosen field. But he refused to be deterred. In 1876, at the age of 26, he took a job as a labourer with the US Geological Survey, hoping to work his way up the ranks and gain the experience he needed to pursue his dream. It was during his time with the survey that Walcott made his most famous discovery. In 1909, while exploring the Burgess Shale Formation in the Canadian Rockies, he stumbled upon an extraordinary trove of fossilized remains, a virtual time capsule of life from the Cambrian period, some 505 million years ago. The Burgess Shale fossils were unlike anything that had ever been seen before. They included strange soft-bodied creatures that had no hard parts, and thus had rarely been preserved in the fossil record. There were worms with spines and arthropods with extra limbs, and even a bizarre creature that looked like a cross between a pineapple and a kitchen brush. Walcott spent years studying the Burgess Shale fossils, carefully extracting them from the rock and painstakingly documenting their anatomy and morphology. He recognized that these creatures represented a pivotal moment in the history of life on Earth, a time when complex multicellular organisms first began to diversify and spread across the globe. But Walcott's work on the Burgess Shale was just one part of his long and distinguished career. He also made important contributions to the study of trilobites, a group of extinct marine arthropods that flourished during the Paleozoic era, and he played a key role in the establishment of the Smithsonian Institution as a leading centre for paleontological research. Perhaps most importantly, Walcott helped to lay the foundation for the modern field of evolutionary biology. Through his careful study of the fossil record, he demonstrated the incredible diversity and complexity of ancient life forms, and he provided compelling evidence for the gradual evolution of species over time. Today, Charles Doolittle Walcott is remembered as one of the giants of American paleontology, a man whose tireless dedication and scientific brilliance helped to shape our understanding of the history of life on Earth. His legacy lives on in the countless researchers who have followed in his footsteps, seeking to unravel the secrets of the ancient past and to shed light on the incredible story of our planet's evolution. As we drift off to sleep, let us take a moment to reflect on the incredible contributions of scientists like Walcott, who have dedicated their lives to expanding the frontiers of human knowledge. Through their tireless efforts and their unwavering commitment to the pursuit of truth, they have helped to open our eyes to the wonders of the natural world and to the incredible complexity and beauty of life in all its forms. So let us dream of strange, soft-bodied creatures swimming through Cambrian seas and of trilobites scuttling across ancient seafloors. Let us marvel at the incredible diversity of life that has existed on our planet over the eons and at the endless mysteries that still await our discovery. And let us give thanks for the brilliant and dedicated scientists who have made it all possible, the men and women who have devoted their lives to unravelling the secrets of the universe and to sharing the wonders of the natural world with all of humanity. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the beauty and the mystery of the ancient Earth. The study of ancient extinct animals is in many ways like assembling a jigsaw puzzle, one where most of the pieces are missing and the picture on the box has long since faded away. Paleontologists must use every scrap of evidence available, from fossilized bones and teeth to trackways and burrows, to painstakingly reconstruct the anatomy, behavior, and ecology of these enigmatic creatures. One of the most iconic extinct animals of all time is the woolly mammoth. With their long curved tusks and shaggy coats, these imposing Ice Age behemoths have captured our imaginations for centuries. But what was life really like for a woolly mammoth? Thanks to the remarkable preservation of some specimens, we can catch a glimpse into their world. In the early 1900s, a group of Siberian reindeer herders made an astonishing discovery: the frozen carcass of a mammoth calf, almost perfectly preserved in the permafrost. This incredible find, nicknamed Dima, provided scientists with a wealth of information about mammoth anatomy and diet. Dima's stomach contents revealed that mammoths grazed on a variety of vegetation, including grasses, sedges, and wildflowers. Pollen grains embedded in his fur hinted at the chilly steppe environment he inhabited. But perhaps the most remarkable window into the world of woolly mammoths comes from a truly extraordinary find: a pair of mammoths, an adult female and a juvenile, discovered locked together in the Siberian permafrost. Nicknamed Luba and Chroma, these mammoths died around 42,000 years ago and were found almost completely intact, their skin, hair and internal organs exquisitely preserved by the frigid temperatures. Luba, the younger of the two at only 30 to 35 days old, is the most complete mammoth specimen ever found. Her trunk was still pliable, her toenails soft and translucent. Even the milk from her mother curdled in her belly could still be discerned. Chroma, in her mid-50s at the time of her death, was equally well preserved, her reddish-brown pelt still bearing the scars of past tussles. The discovery of Luba and Chroma was a revelation for paleontologists. Never before had the fine details of mammoth life been so vividly captured. Luba's final meal of milk and tender vegetation spoke to the close bond between mammoth mothers and calves. The texture and colour of Chroma's coat, adapted for the harsh Siberian cold, could be studied in unprecedented detail. But the most tantalising clues lay hidden within Luba and Chroma's bones and tissues. By extracting ancient DNA and proteins from these preserved remains, scientists have begun to unlock the secrets of mammoth evolution and biology. They've traced the mammoth family tree, discovering that the woolly mammoth's closest living relative is the Asian elephant. Proteins from mammoth hemoglobin have shed light on how these creatures thrived in the Ice Age cold, their blood superbly adapted for delivering oxygen in frigid conditions. The study of Luba, Chroma, and other spectacularly preserved specimens is part of the burgeoning field of paleobiology, using cutting-edge techniques to probe the biology of extinct organisms. By applying tools from molecular biology, geochemistry and imaging to fossils, paleobiologists are bringing the ancient world to life in ways Victorian bone hunters like Mary Anning could only have dreamed of. Another creature whose biology has been profoundly illuminated by paleobiology is the Tyrannosaurus rex. The T-Rex has long been renowned as one of the largest and most fearsome predators to ever walk the earth, but for much of the 20th century, paleontologists could only speculate about the details of its predatory prowess. How fast could T-Rex run? How powerful was its bite? And perhaps most intriguingly, did T-Rex have feathers? In recent decades, a string of remarkable discoveries has allowed scientists to paint an ever more vivid picture of T-Rex as a living, breathing animal. One key line of evidence comes from biomechanical studies, using the laws of physics and engineering to model how T-Rex bones and muscles work together in life. For example, by CT scanning a beautifully preserved T-Rex skull, paleontologists were able to reconstruct the shape and attachment points of the jaw muscles. Coupled with studies on tooth shape and wear patterns, a fearsome picture emerged. The T-Rex had a bite force of over 6 tons, the strongest of any known terrestrial animal. This crushing power, combined with a mouthful of saw-edged teeth, would have allowed T-Rex to crack open the bones of its prey to access the nutritious marrow within. But while formidable, the T-Rex was no speed demon. Contrary to the fleet-footed predators depicted in Jurassic Park, careful studies of T-Rex leg proportions and probable muscle mass suggest this 7-ton behemoth likely had a top speed of around 25 km per hour. Impressive for an animal of its size, but no match for the fastest humans today. Instead, the T-Rex was probably an ambush hunter, using its keen senses and powerful jaws to take down prey. And what of the question of feathers? For many years, the idea of a feathered T-Rex seemed far-fetched, more science fiction than science fact. But a series of groundbreaking discoveries in the 1990s and 2000s turned that view on its head. Paleontologists in China began unearthing a menagerie of feathered dinosaurs, many of them small, agile predators closely related to birds. These finds sparked a re-evaluation of dinosaur biology and evolution, suggesting that feathers may have been widespread among the theropod dinosaurs, the group that includes T-Rex. In 2012, the debate was settled in spectacular fashion with the discovery of Yutyrannus huali, a 1.5-ton relative of T-Rex from early Cretaceous China, bearing the unmistakable imprints of primitive feathers. While no T-Rex fossil has yet been found with preserved feathers, the presence of feathers in its close relatives makes it almost certain that the Tyrant King was, in life, magnificently plumed. The discovery of feathered dinosaurs has been a revolution in paleontology, forcing us to reimagine these creatures not as scaly reptilian monsters, but as something far more bird-like and dynamic. It's a sobering reminder of how much our understanding of extinct animals has changed over time, and how much more there still is to learn. Indeed, for all the remarkable advances in paleobiology in recent years, we've still only scratched the surface of the prehistoric world. Every year, new fossil discoveries challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding of ancient life. From the recent discovery of a 100-million-year-old dinosaur nesting site in Argentina, to the unearthing of a 2.6-million-year-old jawbone in Ethiopia that may represent a new species of early human, the past continues to surprise us. As we look to the future of paleontology, one of the most exciting frontiers is the study of ancient biomolecules. While DNA degrades quickly after death, proteins and other organic compounds can sometimes survive for millions of years, providing a treasure trove of information about long-extinct organisms. In 2015, a team of researchers made headlines by extracting collagen protein from the fossilized femur of a duck-billed dinosaur, allowing them to confirm the evolutionary link between dinosaurs and modern birds. More recently, scientists have recovered proteins from 3.8 million-year-old ostrich eggshells in Africa, shedding light on the environmental conditions our early human ancestors faced. As techniques for recovering and analysing ancient biomolecules continue to improve, we may one day be able to reconstruct the genomes of extinct creatures, opening up new vistas on their biology and evolution. Some scientists even dream of using this genetic information to resurrect vanished species, a Jurassic Park of the mind, if not in reality. But even without such flights of fancy, the study of ancient life continues to captivate and inspire us. In the stony bones of long-dead creatures, we catch glimpses of worlds both achingly familiar and utterly alien, reminders of the endless forms life has taken over the eons. From the towering majesty of the sauropods to the delicate tracery of a fossilized fern, each find is a testament to the resilience and creativity of nature enduring through the ages. As we wrap up our journey through the lost worlds of the prehistoric past, it's worth reflecting on the legacy of the great fossil hunters and paleontologists who have brought these vanished realms back to life. From Mary Anning's groundbreaking discoveries on the windswept cliffs of Lyme Regis to Roy Chapman Andrews' swashbuckling expeditions in the Gobi Desert, these intrepid explorers have expanded our understanding of the natural world and our place within it. Today, a new generation of paleontologists is carrying on that legacy, armed with tools and techniques the early bone hunters could only have dreamed of. With every new fossil discovered, every ancient protein sequenced, they are piecing together the grand puzzle of life's history, revealing the awe-inspiring complexity and diversity of the living world. So tonight, as we drift off to sleep, let us dream of lost worlds and vanished beasts, secure in the knowledge that their stories live on in the fossil record and in the imaginations of those who study it. For in the bones of the past we find not just the remnants of ancient life, but a reflection of our own place in the vast tapestry of time. Sweet dreams, dear listener, and may your journeys through the prehistoric realms be ever wondrous and strange. As we peer back through the mists of time, it's hard not to be humbled by the sheer scale and strangeness of the creatures that once called Earth home. From the tiniest trilobite to the most titanic sauropod, each of these animals was exquisitely adapted to its own time and place, a product of millions of years of evolutionary fine-tuning. But for all their differences, there are some themes that emerge again and again in the fossil record. One is the power of contingency, the idea that the course of life on Earth has often been shaped by chance events, from the drift of continents to the fall of meteors. Another is the resilience of life itself, the way it has always managed to bounce back from even the most devastating setbacks. Perhaps no group of animals embodies these themes quite like the dinosaurs. For over 150 million years they dominated the planet, evolving into a dizzying array of forms and colonizing every corner of the globe. There were the towering sauropods, whose massive bodies were sustained by industrial-scale digestive systems. The fleet-footed theropods, with their razor-sharp teeth and keen senses. The heavily armoured ankylosaurs, walking fortresses built to withstand the fiercest attacks. But for all their success, the dinosaurs were not invincible. When a massive asteroid slammed into the Earth 66 million years ago, it unleashed a hellish cascade of destruction, searing heat, choking dust, acid rain, global wildfires. In a geological heartbeat, the great dynasties of the Mesozoic were toppled, and the age of reptiles gave way to the age of mammals. In the aftermath of the extinction, our furry ancestors underwent their own explosive radiation, evolving to fill the ecological niches left vacant by the vanished giants. From tiny, shrew-like insectivores, they ballooned in size and diversity, giving rise to everything from bat-winged gliders to lumbering ground sloths to saber-toothed predators. And of course, one lineage of mammals would give rise to a species with the ability to ponder its own origins, to dig up the bones of long-dead creatures and marvel at the worlds they once inhabited. The science of paleontology has allowed us to peer through the keyholes of time, to reconstruct entire ecosystems from the most fragmentary of clues. But for every question we answer, new ones arise. What did a stegosaurus sound like? What colour was a velociraptor's feathers? How did the first whales make the transition from land to sea? With each new discovery, the picture shifts and changes, reminding us how much we still have to learn. And that, perhaps, is the greatest lesson of all. The story of life on Earth is not a simple linear march of progress, but a vast branching tree, with twists and turns and dead ends along the way. The creatures of the past were not just waypoints on the road to the present, but wonders in their own right, each one a masterpiece of adaptation and survival. So as we contemplate the sweep of geological time, let us remember to approach the past with humility and wonder. The fossils we study are not just dusty relics, but echoes of a world more rich and strange than we can possibly imagine. And as we drift off to sleep, may we dream of ancient forests and primordial seas, of creatures both familiar and fantastical, all part of the endlessly unfolding tapestry of life on this pale blue dot we call home. As we ponder these lost worlds and the incredible creatures that once inhabited them, it's worth reflecting on the remarkable journey of discovery that has brought them back to life in our imaginations. The quest to understand ancient extinct animals has been driven by a passionate, eccentric, and fiercely determined cast of characters over the centuries. Take Mary Anning, the humble cabinet-maker's daughter from the seaside town of Lyme Regis in England. Born in 1799, Anning had a knack for spotting and extracting the strange stone curiosities that would occasionally tumble out of the towering cliffs near her home. She and her brother Joseph would sell these fossils to tourists to supplement the family's meagre income. But Anning's sharp eye and careful collecting soon caught the attention of the scientific community. In 1811, at the tender age of 12, she unearthed an intact skull of what would later be recognised as an ichthyosaur, a sleek fish-like marine reptile that sliced through the Jurassic seas. A few years later, she discovered the first complete plesiosaur, with its improbably long neck and paddle-shaped fins. Anning went on to make a series of groundbreaking finds over her lifetime, including the first pterosaur skeleton outside of Germany and key evidence of extinct species of fish, sharks, and mollusks. Her fossils were eagerly sought out by the great geologists and paleontologists of the day, who would make the trek to her seaside shop to marvel at her latest discoveries. Yet as a working-class woman in Victorian England, Anning faced an uphill battle to be taken seriously by the scientific establishment. She was barred from joining the Geological Society of London on account of her gender, and often saw her finds published under the names of the male collectors who had purchased them. Anning's story reflects the challenges and prejudices faced by many early pioneers of paleontology, who had to fight to have their work recognised and respected. But it also speaks to the sheer force of will and determination that drove these individuals to keep searching for clues to our planet's past, even in the face of skepticism and adversity. This same spirit of dogged persistence can be seen in the fierce rivalries that sometimes sprung up between competing paleontologists, each vying to make the next big discovery. Perhaps the most infamous of these was the Bone Wars of the late 1800s, which pitted two wealthy and eccentric American fossil hunters against each other in a bitter struggle for scientific supremacy. Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh were both born into privileged East Coast families and educated at the finest universities. But their shared passion for paleontology would lead them down a path of ruthless competition and mutual destruction. The Bone Wars began in earnest in 1877, when Marsh humiliated Cope by publicly pointing out that he had mistakenly placed the skull of an Elasmosaurus on the wrong end of its body. Cope was furious and vowed revenge. Over the next 2 decades, the men would race each other to dig up and name as many new dinosaur species as possible, often resorting to bribery, theft, and sabotage to gain the upper hand. Their teams of fossil hunters would crisscross the American West, scouring the badlands of Colorado, Nebraska, and Wyoming for the remains of ancient monsters. They would blast open hillsides with dynamite, hastily excavate skeletons, and ship them back east by the wagon load, often with scant regard for proper scientific documentation. In the end, Cope and Marsh's feud would take a heavy toll on both men's reputations and finances, but their relentless search for fossils would also transform North America into a paleontological powerhouse, unearthing a dizzying array of new dinosaurs like Allosaurus, Stegosaurus, Triceratops, and Diplodocus that captured the public imagination. The Bone Wars marked a turning point in the science of paleontology, as the trickle of new fossil discoveries turned into a flood. Museums and universities across Europe and North America began mounting their own expeditions to the western United States, scrambling to fill their exhibit halls with the bones of fearsome beasts. But even as the great dinosaurs became household names, there were still many lingering questions about what these animals were actually like in life. For much of the early 20th century, the prevailing view was that dinosaurs were plodding, sluggish creatures, cold-blooded behemoths that lumbered through a hot, swampy landscape before going extinct. It would take a new generation of paleontologists, armed with novel techniques and a fresh perspective, to begin to overturn this image and bring dinosaurs into the modern era. One of the key figures in this dinosaur renaissance was John Ostrom, a young professor at Yale University with a keen interest in animal behavior and anatomy. In the 1960s, Ostrom began studying a small, agile predatory dinosaur called Deinonychus, which had been discovered a few decades earlier in Montana. As he examined its fossilized bones and claws, Ostrom became convinced that this animal was no sluggish reptile, but a quick, active hunter that likely had a high metabolism and complex social behavior. Ostrom's work on Deinonychus led him to propose a radical new hypothesis, that birds were the direct descendants of certain types of dinosaurs. This idea flew in the face of the conventional wisdom at the time, which held that birds had evolved separately from dinosaurs, perhaps from an earlier group of reptiles. But Ostrom persisted, marshalling a growing body of evidence to support his case. He pointed to the striking anatomical similarities between birds and certain small meat-eating dinosaurs, from their lightweight, hollowed-out bones to their three-toed feet and grasping hands. He also argued that the presence of wishbones, or furculi, in some dinosaurs was a clear sign of their kinship with birds. Ostrom's theory was met with skepticism at first, but over time, more and more paleontologists began to come around to his way of thinking. Discoveries of fossilized feathers and nesting sites further strengthened the dinosaur-bird connection, painting a picture of these animals as dynamic, warm-blooded creatures that lived fast and died young. Today, the idea that birds are living dinosaurs is widely accepted among paleontologists, a testament to the power of fresh thinking and dogged pursuit of evidence. And as new technologies like CT scanning and ancient DNA analysis have come online, we're learning more than ever before about the biology and behavior of these captivating creatures. But of course, dinosaurs are just one piece of the vast puzzle of prehistoric life. The fossil record is filled with all manner of strange and wonderful organisms, from giant insects and towering trees to armor-plated fish and carnivorous kangaroos. One of the most iconic groups of ancient animals are the mammals that lived during the last ice age, which peaked around 20,000 years ago. These megafauna, or giant animals, included familiar creatures like woolly mammoths and saber-toothed cats, as well as more obscure beasts like the car-sized armadillo relative Glyptodon and the marsupial lion Thylacoleo. The first hints of these lost giants came to light in the early 1800s, as fossilized bones and teeth began to turn up across Europe and the Americas. In 1796, the French anatomist Georges Cuvier became the first to recognize that the elephant-like remains found in Siberia belonged to a distinct extinct species that he dubbed the woolly mammoth. Cuvier's insight was groundbreaking at the time, as it challenged the prevailing view that animal species were fixed and unchanging. If mammoths had once roamed the earth but were now gone, it meant that the history of life was far more dynamic and unpredictable than previously thought. As more and more Ice Age fossils were unearthed in the following decades, scientists began to piece together a picture of a world that was at once familiar and alien. Herds of shaggy mammoths and woolly rhinos trampled across the frozen steppes of Eurasia, while cave bears and cave lions stalked the shadows. In North America, towering mastodons and stilt-legged camels shared the landscape with giant ground sloths and fearsome dire wolves. The La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles have proven to be a particularly rich trove of Ice Age fossils. Over the millennia, countless animals became mired in the sticky asphalt seeps, their bones preserved for posterity. Since excavations began in the early 1900s, more than 1 million fossils have been recovered from the pits, representing over 600 species of plants and animals. But even as we marvel at the diversity and size of these Ice Age beasts, we're also confronted with a sobering reality. They're all gone, victims of a mass extinction event that began around 50,000 years ago and peaked at the end of the last glacial period. The exact causes are still debated, but it's clear that a combination of climate change, habitat loss, and human overhunting played a role in the megafauna's demise. In a sense, the story of the Ice Age giants is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fragility of life in the face of rapid environmental change, And as we grapple with the ongoing biodiversity crisis today, with species disappearing at an alarming rate, it's more important than ever to understand the lessons of the past. But the Ice Age megafauna are just one chapter in the long, strange history of mammalian evolution. The first true mammals emerged around 200 million years ago, in the shadow of the dinosaurs. These early pioneers were small, nocturnal insect eaters, scurrying beneath the feet of the great archosaurs. But as the reign of the dinosaurs came to a cataclysmic end 66 million years ago, the mammals seized their moment in the sun. In the aftermath of the extinction, they rapidly diversified and evolved, filling the ecological niches left vacant by the vanished reptiles. Over the ensuing millions of years, mammals would expand into a dizzying array of forms and lifestyles, from tiny burrowing shrews to gigantic grazing elephants, from swift cheetahs to soaring bats. They would return to the seas as whales and dolphins, take to the skies as the only flying mammal, colonize every corner of the globe from the Arctic to the Sahara. And of course, one lineage of mammals would give rise to our own species, Homo sapiens, the upright ape with an outsized brain and a knack for manipulating its environment. The story of human evolution is itself a fascinating and ever-unfolding saga, from the earliest bipedal hominins roaming the African savanna to the global technological civilization we have built today. But that perhaps is a tale for another night. For now, as we prepare to drift off into dreamland, let us take a moment to reflect on the incredible sweep of life's history on this planet we call home. From the humblest single-celled organisms to the most majestic beasts that ever trod the earth, every creature has played its part in the grand evolutionary drama. And as we continue to uncover new fossils and decipher their secrets, we are reminded that our own existence is just a tiny blip in the vast expanse of deep time. We are the lucky inheritors of a world shaped by countless generations of living things, each leaving its mark on the ever-changing tapestry of life. So as we close our eyes and let sleep overtake us, let us dream of the ancient worlds and vanished creatures that have come before, and let us marvel at the extraordinary journey that has brought us to this moment, poised on the brink of new discoveries and wonders yet to come. Good night, and sweet dreams of dinosaurs, mammoths, and all the incredible beasts that have shared this earth with us. Ah, the woolly mammoth, an icon of the Ice Age if ever there was one. Standing up to 11 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing as much as 6 tons, this shaggy behemoth was truly a sight to behold. But for all its impressive size, the woolly mammoth was remarkably well adapted to the harsh cold climate of its Pleistocene domain. That thick, luxurious coat of long outer hairs and dense inner wool for which it's so famous. That was key to its survival, providing unparalleled insulation against the biting winds and sub-zero temperatures of the tundra. And those magnificent curving tusks. They were multi-purpose tools used for foraging, defense, and even moving aside snow to reach the tasty grasses and sedges buried beneath. But perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of woolly mammoth biology was its diet. You see, by studying the chemical composition of fossilized mammoth teeth and bones, paleontologists have been able to piece together a surprisingly detailed picture of what these giants ate. The evidence suggests that woolly mammoths were primarily grazers, relying on the tough, nutrient-poor grasses and sedges that dominated their treeless Ice Age habitat. But here's the interesting bit. Isotopic analysis of their teeth also shows spikes in nitrogen-15, a heavier form of the element that tends to accumulate in the tissues of mammals during times of extreme nutritional stress. This tells us that woolly mammoths likely experienced regular periods of near-starvation as the bitter cold of the Pleistocene winter set in and food became scarce. They were survivors, these mammoths, eking out a living in some of the harshest conditions nature could throw at them. But in the end, even their remarkable resilience wasn't enough to save them from extinction. The exact cause of the woolly mammoth's demise is still a matter of some debate among paleontologists. Some point to climate change at the end of the last Ice Age, which transformed the mammoth's grassland habitat into birch and conifer forests, ill-suited to their grazing lifestyle. Others place more blame on human hunting, which may have put unsustainable pressure on already stressed mammoth populations. Whatever the ultimate cause, the last of these majestic beasts is thought to have vanished from mainland Siberia and North America around 10,000 years ago, with a few isolated populations hanging on until as recently as 4,000 years ago on Arctic islands like Wrangel Island and St. Paul Island. But while the woolly mammoth may be gone, it's far from forgotten. In fact, this extinct icon has captured the human imagination like few other ancient animals. Its likeness adorns everything from cave paintings to modern-day monuments, a testament to our enduring fascination with this lost giant of the Ice Age. And that fascination has fueled some truly audacious scientific endeavours in recent years. As we'll explore later, researchers are even working on the possibility of bringing the woolly mammoth back from extinction through cutting-edge genetic engineering and cloning techniques. It's a controversial idea, to be sure, but one that speaks to the powerful allure these bygone beasts still hold for us. But the woolly mammoth is just one of many remarkable creatures that once roamed the frigid landscape of Pleistocene Eurasia and North America. Another was the Irish elk, a misnomer if ever there was one. You see, despite its common name, the Irish elk was neither exclusively Irish nor an elk at all. In fact, this majestic creature, the largest deer to ever live, ranged across Europe and Asia, from Siberia to the Atlantic coast. Standing up to 7 feet tall at the shoulder, the Irish elk was a truly imposing sight. But what really set it apart was the male's spectacular headgear. Imagine a set of antlers spanning up to 12 feet from tip to tip, weighing as much as 90 pounds. That's what an Irish elk stag sported atop his head, the largest antlers of any known deer, living or extinct. It's thought that these extravagant appendages evolved through sexual selection, with females favouring males sporting the most impressive racks. But while those massive antlers may have been a boon when it came to attracting mates, they also came with a hefty energy cost. Growing and carrying around such outsized headgear required a lot of nutrients, which may have put the Irish elk at a disadvantage as the climate shifted, and its preferred habitat of open woodlands gave way to dense forest. Like the woolly mammoth, the Irish elk ultimately succumbed to extinction as the Pleistocene drew to a close. The last of these magnificent deer died out around 7,700 years ago, though their legacy lives on in the countless specimens gracing museum halls around the world. And what child hasn't gazed up in wonder at those awe-inspiring antlers, imagining the sight of a mighty Irish elk stag striding through the misty woodlands of a bygone age? In a way, that sense of wonder is the greatest gift these extinct marvels have left us, a reminder of the incredible diversity and resilience of life on our ever-changing planet. But the Pleistocene bestiary was more than just mammoths and mega deer. Fierce predators also stalked the frigid landscapes of the Ice Age, perhaps none more iconic than the saber-toothed cats. Now, it's a common misconception that these fearsome felines were all members of the genus Smilodon, the famous saber-toothed tiger. In fact, saber-toothed cats were a diverse bunch, with several different genera spread across the Americas, Europe and Asia. The most famous of these was indeed Smilodon, which prowled the Americas from the southern United States all the way down to Uruguay. But there were others, like Homotherium, the so-called scimitar cat, and Meganterion, a smaller but no less formidable hunter. What united these various saber-toothed species were those unmistakable canine teeth, long, flattened, serrated fangs that could reach up to 7 inches in length. These fearsome dental daggers have long fueled speculation about how saber-toothed cats hunted and dispatched their prey. Some paleontologists have suggested that they used their sabres to slash the throats of their victims, severing the jugular vein and causing rapid blood loss. Others have proposed that the cats used their teeth to puncture and crush the windpipe, suffocating their prey. Still others have argued for a canine shear bite, in which the cat would use its powerful neck muscles to drive its sabres into the soft tissue behind the prey's ribcage, then yank back to create devastating tears. The truth is, we may never know for certain how these ancient predators employed their most iconic weapons. What we do know is that saber-toothed cats were formidable hunters, preying on a wide range of Ice Age herbivores, from bison and horses to giant ground sloths and even juvenile mammoths. And like so many of their Pleistocene contemporaries, they too vanished as the great glaciers receded and the world began to warm. The last of the saber-tooths, a North American species of Smilodon, is thought to have gone extinct around 10,000 years ago. But their legend lives on, enshrined in countless works of art and popular media, from the unforgettable attack sequence in the 1966 film 1,000,000 Years BC, to Diego, the lovable saber-toothed sidekick in the Ice Age animated franchise. These extinct predators continue to stalk the human imagination. But while saber-toothed cats may be the most famous of the Pleistocene predators, they were far from the only ones. The Ice Age was a time of giants, and that applied to the carnivores as well as the herbivores. Take the giant short-faced bear, for example, standing up to 11 feet tall on its hind legs and weighing in at a whopping 2,000 pounds. The giant short-faced bear was one of the largest terrestrial carnivores to ever live. Its long legs and slender build suggest it was built for speed, perhaps chasing down prey in short bursts across the open grasslands of Ice Age North America. But the giant short-faced bear wasn't just a speedy sprinter, it was also a powerful predator, with jaws and teeth capable of crushing bone, and a muscular build that would have made it a formidable grappler. Some paleontologists have even suggested that it may have been a specialized hunter of other bears, using its size and strength to overpower its smaller ursine cousins. Alas, like so many of its Ice Age contemporaries, the giant short-faced bear was not long for this world. The last of these impressive predators disappeared around 11,000 years ago, as the Pleistocene gave way to the Holocene and the world began to warm. But the giant short-faced bear was just one of many oversized carnivores to stalk the Ice Age landscape. There was also the dire wolf, a larger and more heavily built relative of the modern grey wolf that once roamed across much of the Americas. Weighing up to 175 pounds and sporting a more massive skull and teeth than its living cousins, the dire wolf was a formidable predator in its own right. It's thought to have been a pack hunter, working together to bring down large prey like horses, bison, and perhaps even the occasional ground sloth or mammoth calf. Like the giant short-faced bear, the dire wolf met its demise as the Ice Age drew to a close. The last of these impressive canids died out around 9,500 years ago, though their smaller cousins, the grey wolves, managed to survive and thrive into the present day. But perhaps the most unusual of the Pleistocene predators was a creature that blurred the line between cat and dog. I'm talking, of course, about the fearsome marsupial lion. Now, before you start picturing a lion with a pouch, let me clarify. The marsupial lion was not a true lion at all, nor was it closely related to any living feline. Instead, this remarkable creature was a pouched mammal, more closely akin to kangaroos and koalas than to any cat or dog. But convergent evolution, the process by which unrelated species evolve similar traits, had shaped the marsupial lion into a formidable predator, complete with blade-like teeth, powerful jaws, and a muscular build. The largest of these marsupial lions was a species known as Thylacoleo carnifex, which stalked the forests and grasslands of Australia during the Pleistocene. Weighing up to 200 pounds and sporting a pair of elongated thumb claws that could have put Wolverine to shame, Thylacoleo was the undisputed top predator of its time and place. But like so many of the magnificent beasts we've encountered on our journey through the Pleistocene, the marsupial lion was ultimately doomed to extinction. The last of these unique predators disappeared from the Australian mainland around 46,000 years ago, with a final population persisting on the island of Tasmania until as recently as 2,000 years ago. The exact cause of the marsupial lion's demise is still a matter of debate among paleontologists. Some point to climate change and the increasing aridity of the Australian landscape, which may have taken a toll on the prey species the marsupial lions depended on. Others have suggested that competition with newly arrived human hunters, or even direct persecution by early Aboriginal Australians, may have played a role. Whatever the cause, the loss of the marsupial lion marked the end of an era, the last gasp of a unique evolutionary experiment that had produced one of the most remarkable predators the world has ever seen. But while Thylacoleo and its kin may be gone, they continue to capture the imagination of scientists and laypeople alike, a testament to the enduring allure of these ancient wonders. As we've seen time and again on our journey through the Pleistocene, the Ice Age was a time of giants, a world where evolution seemed to favour the big, the bold and the bizarre. But amidst all the woolly mammoths and saber-toothed cats, there was one creature that stood out as a true oddball, the Glyptodon. Imagine, if you will, a giant armadillo the size of a small car covered in a thick bony shell of interlocking plates. That's the Glyptodon in a nutshell, a creature so strange, so utterly unlike anything alive today that it almost defies belief. But the Glyptodon was very much real, and for millions of years these lumbering beasts trundled across the grasslands and savannas of South America, grazing on vegetation and using their heavily armoured bodies to deter would-be predators. Some species even had armoured tails tipped with fearsome clubs, which they could have used to defend themselves or settle disputes with rival Glyptodons. The Glyptodon's unique armour was its most striking feature. but it was also a marvel of evolutionary engineering. Each bony plate was covered in a thin layer of horn-like material called keratin, the same stuff that makes up our own hair and nails. This keratinous coating helped to strengthen and protect the plates, while also allowing for a small degree of flexibility between them. But the Glyptodon's armour wasn't just for show. It served a vital defensive purpose in a world where danger lurked around every corner. With saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, and giant short-faced bears on the prowl, an unprotected Glyptodon would have been an easy meal. But with its bony shell and armoured tail, the Glyptodon was a formidable opponent, even for the most fearsome of Pleistocene predators. Alas, even the Glyptodon's impressive defences were not enough to save it from the ravages of time. Like so many of its Ice Age contemporaries, the Glyptodon ultimately succumbed to extinction, with the last of these remarkable creatures disappearing around 10,000 years ago. But while the Glyptodon may be gone, it's far from forgotten. Its striking appearance and unique adaptations have made it a favourite among paleontologists and the public alike, and its fossils can be found in museums and collections all over the world. And who knows? With the rapid advances being made in the field of ancient DNA research, it's not impossible to imagine a future where the Glyptodon's genome is sequenced and studied, shedding new light on this remarkable creature and its place in the grand tapestry of life. But the Glyptodon is just one of many extinct marvels that have captured our imaginations and fueled our fascination with the past. From the towering height of the giant moa to the alien appearance of the Opabinia, the fossil record is filled with creatures that seem to defy explanation or belief. And yet, through the tireless efforts of generations of paleontologists, we've been able to piece together a remarkably detailed picture of these ancient wonders and the worlds they inhabited. From the scorching deserts of the Permian to the lush rainforests of the Eocene, we've traced the story of life on Earth through countless twists and turns, extinctions and radiations. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about this story is the way it continues to unfold even today. With each new fossil discovery and technological advance, we're able to peer ever deeper into the mysteries of the past, uncovering new wonders and rewriting old assumptions. Who knows what the next great discovery will be? Perhaps it will be a feathered dinosaur even more spectacular than the ones we know today, or a bizarre new species of ancient mammal that challenges everything we thought we knew about the history of our own lineage. Or perhaps it will be something even more extraordinary, a window into a world so alien, so utterly unlike our own, that it defies our ability to even imagine it. After all, the history of life on Earth is filled with surprises, and there's no telling what strange and wonderful creatures may yet lie hidden in the rocks beneath our feet. But one thing is certain: as long as there are fossils to be found and mysteries to be solved, there will be paleontologists and other scientists working tirelessly to uncover the secrets of the past. And as long as there are people willing to listen and learn, there will be stories to be told about the incredible creatures that once roamed this earth. So as we drift off to sleep tonight, let us dream of lost worlds and forgotten wonders, of giants and dragons and creatures beyond our wildest imaginings. And let us give thanks for the remarkable minds and indomitable spirits of those who have dedicated their lives to bringing these ancient marvels back to life, if only in our imaginations. For it is through their efforts, and through the enduring power of science and storytelling, that the great beasts of the past will never truly be lost. They will live on in our hearts and minds, a testament to the incredible diversity and resilience of life on this ever-changing planet. And who knows? Perhaps someday, through the miracles of science and technology, we may even be able to bring some of these incredible creatures back from the brink of extinction, to once again roam the wilds of our world as they did so long ago. But even if that day never comes, we can still take solace in the knowledge that these ancient wonders will always be with us, in the fossils and fragments that bear witness to their existence, and in the stories and legends that keep their memories alive. So let us treasure these tales of the past and hold them close as we drift off into the welcoming arms of sleep. For in the end, it is the stories we tell and the wonders we imagine that. As we've seen, the more we learn about extinct animals through fossil discoveries and scientific analysis, the more we realize how much there is still to uncover. Each new find has the potential to rewrite our understanding of ancient life and the worlds it inhabited. Take the remarkable case of the Siberian unicorn, Elasmotherium. For centuries this creature was known only from fragmentary remains and mysterious legends, but in 2016 a well-preserved skull was discovered in the Pavlodar region of Kazakhstan. From it, scientists were able to determine that this lumbering, shaggy beast survived much longer than previously thought, overlapping with early humans before finally dying out around 39,000 years ago. The Elasmotherium was just one of many megafauna that roamed the Mammoth Steppe during the Pleistocene epoch. This now vanished ecosystem stretched from Spain to Siberia, supporting a vast array of giant creatures exquisitely adapted to the cold, dry conditions. There were cave bears, larger than any bear species alive today, and fearsome cave hyenas that prowled for prey. Giant beavers the size of black bears gnawed on wood with teeth over 6 inches long, and herds of steppe bison, wild asses and horses thundered across the grasslands. But perhaps the most iconic Ice Age mammal was the woolly mammoth. Standing up to 11 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing as much as 6 tons, these mighty beasts were covered in a thick coat of shaggy hair and possessed enormous curved tusks. They range from Western Europe to North America, thriving in the harsh glacial conditions. For centuries, their remains were a source of wonder and a mystery. The indigenous Evenk people of Siberia believed the mammoth was a giant mole-like creature that died if it was exposed to sunlight. When the first intact frozen mammoth was discovered in 1806, it caused a scientific sensation. The naturalist Georges Cuvier used it to prove the reality of extinction and establish the field of paleontology. Since then, many more spectacularly preserved mammoths have emerged from the permafrost. In 1977, a baby mammoth named Dima was found by a gold miner in eastern Siberia. Nearly intact, with strawberry blonde hair and long eyelashes still visible, Dima gave scientists an unprecedented look at mammoth anatomy and adaptations. More recently, new genomic techniques have allowed researchers to sequence the woolly mammoth genome from frozen tissue. These molecular studies are revealing the genetic changes that allowed mammoths to adapt to the cold, from small ears to specialized hemoglobin and fat deposits. Scientists are even exploring the possibility of using mammoth DNA to resurrect the species in a process known as de-extinction. Of course, the ethics and feasibility of such a project are hotly debated. Would a mammoth cloned from ancient DNA be the same creature that once roamed the earth? How would it adapt to our modern world, so different from the one its ancestors knew? These are questions that paleontologists and the public will grapple with as our ability to manipulate ancient DNA advances. What is clear is that the study of ancient extinct animals continues to captivate our collective imagination. From the first fragmentary fossils that hinted at lost worlds, to the cutting-edge molecular techniques allowing us to reconstruct genomes and appearance, each discovery adds a new piece to the puzzle of life on Earth. In a way, by studying these long-dead creatures, we're also studying ourselves. We're the inheritors of an evolutionary legacy stretching back billions of years, shaped by cataclysmic events and changing climates. The same processes that moulded the dinosaurs, the mammoths, and the myriad forms of ancient life have also made us who we are. As we drift off to sleep, let us dream of the wondrous creatures that came before us, the marvels still waiting to be discovered in the fossil record, and the stories they have to tell about our planet's long and colourful history. And when we wake, may we greet the day with renewed curiosity about the natural world around us, knowing that we are part of an unbroken chain of life stretching back to the dawn of time. And with that, we come to the end of our journey into the world of ancient extinct animals. If you enjoyed exploring the mysteries of the prehistoric past, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more science stories to lull you into slumber. Sweet dreams, and until next time, may your nights be filled with the soft sounds of Cretaceous crickets and the gentle snores of snoozing Stegosaurus.